Hello and welcome to Fireside Improv Chapter 17 of this Karl Franz saga, where he is currently beset by enemies at all sides. There are Bretonnians, Skaven, who have battered down the fortress of Fort Sol and has opened up a path into the Empire. Vampires and potentially dwarves who have broken alliances, trade agreements, military access. It seems only a matter of time until a war breaks out between the Empire and Clan Angrund and Belegar. Then more dwarves have set up shop in the eastern part of the Empire. While they are not strictly enemies yet, they have taken enough land that the Emperor is skeptical of their willingness to leave peacefully when the time comes. Further north, a similar story with Tsarina Katerin and Kislev. While they are in a pretty good relationship at the moment, it would still be tough to imagine them pulling out of Empire territory now that they've been in there for quite some time. However, part of Kislev has been ravished by chaos-worshipping Norskins and even demons. The western part of Kislev has fallen, so perhaps some sort of deal could be worked out of reclaiming that part of Kislev in exchange for those Empire territories. For now, the Emperor is going to march to Flensburg to get out of the corruption that is still gripping the land and is causing sickness and disease among his people. Ralph Koch is going to march towards Averheim, which is currently under siege by Belegar Ironhammer. And down south, Thadric is tasked with dealing with the Skaven.
To strengthen the Empire, it is time.
And reclaiming Fort Sol and rebuilding that defensive line against them. Belegar has in fact taken over Averland. The Emperor decides that now is not the time to press the issue. At least the citizens that live there are no longer under the rule of vampires and decaying and rotting flesh around them all the time. It is an improvement. There are more pressing matters to deal with, but this claim will need to be pressed when the time comes. In the meantime, vampires have marched on forward, and they are going to be dealt with.
I live to serve the Emperor.
The enemy stench can be smelt across the battlefields. The rotting corpses, held together by dark magics of necromancy, forcing their limbs to march forward step by step, barely managing to hold their own weight. They should easily die to the Empire army. With missile superiority with the handgunners and crossbows, Ralph sits back and lets the zombie horde come to him. He has no need to go out and try to ride forward.
Lector! Death to them! For Sigma! Fire! Swordsmen! Quick march! Yes, sir! Enemy wizard spotted! Keep your heads down!
The great beasts that were brought to the field were killed quickly, leaving only the great horde of zombies that hit like wet needles to deal with. Magic binding the army fails, leaving the vampire lord to stand alone until he too is forced to flee the field. With that army dealt with, Ralph Koch is going to turn his attention to start pushing a bit further east. There are still several vampiric hordes towards Sylvania, the Moot, Needling, Forced Oberstyre. They will all need to be taken one at a time. Vlad von Carstein himself is currently stationed in the Moot, so there are some great struggles ahead.
True servant of Sigma. I will do anything for Sigma, going forth.
As is my right by Sigmar's crown.
With the Black Pit reconstruction on the way, the Black Pit itself was torn down, and in its place, the new city of Oleg will be risen. The Emperor wishes to commemorate his fallen friend. The Black Pit is no name for a great city of the Empire, and so the great city of Oleg is born. The straits between Norska and the Empire is no longer safe. The Emperor knew this time would eventually come, but Throg, the great troll of Trollkind, has declared war. He's rallying the clans of Norska to invade the Empire again. Vlad von Carstein has begun to move out. The Emperor is going to need to counter this movement. He and Ralph will need to band together and make sure that their armies are standing together instead of apart.
I live to serve the Emperor, guided by Sigma. Your word is my command.
Pick up the pace. I am Franz. They will obey. Who calls? This will bolster the nation.
Meanwhile, Thaedric is recolonizing Fort Sol.
What? Yes, my lord.
It needs to
Now?
be rebuilt to withstand Skaven or Wood Elf incursions. The Wood Elves and Skaven will hopefully keep each other occupied so that neither are thinking about the Empire too much. Up in the north, another Skaven force has come forward to attack Castle von Rauken. Balthazar Geltz has been tasked with defending these northern lands, but with so much of Kislev having fallen, he is strongly considering leaving Castle von Rauken to its fate. It doesn't open any other territory up to invasion if it does fall, so he is strongly considering holding at Norden, while another force may need to be risen at Wrecker's Point as well to counter any potential invasions coming from Norska. The Skaven have, in fact, abandoned the siege of Van Rauken. Something drew their attention off to the east. Perhaps Kislev is marching forward for a counter-assault. Meanwhile, Vlad von Carstein is marching ever closer. The battle between the Emperor and Vlad appears to be nearing as the two armies are assembling. Norscan tribes have come across the strait as was expected. Karl Franz does order another army to be raised. General of the Empire Otto von Pupelscheit is going to be the choice to hold Wrecker's Point against these Norskins. The force isn't particularly big, so the Emperor is going to rely on Otto to be able to hold it without further reinforcements. Fort Sol will begin its reconstruction so that it can serve its function and hold against any threats. Scouts do report that the Border Princes are trying to push back against the Skaven as well, so perhaps the Skaven are going to be able to be dealt with beyond the Empire's borders. Vlad von Carstein has moved his forces, his hordes, further north. Something has gotten his attention up there. Emperor has decided he's going to follow, as he doesn't want him to lose sight. And he can sweep across these central territories, reclaiming Wurtbad, and then over towards Needling, where he can push into Sylvania from the north. Further south, again, the Emperor calls upon Ustel Klaus to hold Fort Sol. He's going to grab a few of the soldiers from Theodric in order to help hold that. And Theodric is going to march back up to Weisland in order to grab some reinforcements. He has heard of the great effect that the new rocket batteries have had on the field of battle and wants one of his own, or perhaps two, along with a fancy new battle wizard.
Sigmarite Archlector!
Vlad von Carstein has split up his hordes. It's unknown what tactical advantage he hopes to achieve by splitting them up, but the Emperor is not going to split up as well. He is going to keep his forces together and push on towards Needling. So that he can start his invasion of Sylvania, but his scouts are reporting that Sylvania is already falling to dwarves. Only Castle Tempelhof is truly remaining. Perhaps that is why Vlad von Carstein is running away from Sylvania, searching for a new place to lay low for a while, as his power base has in fact been shattered. While the Emperor is partially overjoyed with this news, it will allow him to deal with other threats. He still has those plagues gripping those central regions, and with the demonic hordes and the Norskins coming out from the north, it is in perfect timing for him to turn his attention to holding off those threats. He also knows that he is going to have to ask these dwarves politely to leave, which is not likely to be successful. Tsarina Katerin of the Ice Court is coming forward and asking for a defensive alliance with the Emperor. She is being overwhelmed by all of the forces attacking Kislev. It has almost entirely fallen. This is an act of desperation. But the Emperor believes that if he can help her reclaim Kislev, that he will be able to also exchange that act of bravery and loyalty to get back those empire settlements that she previously liberated in the eastern part of the empire. Bretonnia has laid siege to Fort Bergbrez once again. The force doesn't seem to be particularly strong, and the fort should be able to hold out on its own, but knowing that that threat is remaining, the Fey Enchantress holds ill will against the Empire is still concerning, as that western border of the Empire remains under threat. Meanwhile, the Skaven that veered off towards the east has returned in even greater numbers, greater strength, to threaten Castle von Rauken once again. It's unlikely that their distraction is going to come back a second time. In the heart of the Empire, it appears that Vlad von Carstein and Bernhof von Carstein have decided to bring their hordes back together. They're beelining it towards Averheim and Belagar Ironhammer. If they are in fact distracted there, it leaves the Emperor with a clear path forward.
I am Prince and Emperor. No peace, just war.
While it would be an easy victory, the Emperor does go ahead and wait for further reinforcements from Ralph Koch in order to minimize the lives lost of the Empire soldiers. He will loot what riches he can so that he can divert the resources to building up some defenses up in the north to help hold these coastal settlements.
Do not waste my potential. I will marshal the bay, by Sigma's right.
Daedric has arrived back in Reichland, where he is going to recruit some of those Hellstrom rocket batteries.
Ready! It is time.
And then ride out again. To do battle with the enemies of the Empire.
Ready to burn them. That is fortuitous.
Vlad von Carstein turns his attention towards the city of Flensburg instead of continuing on to Averheim. The settlement is poorly defended and does fall against his large horde. With Vlad von Carstein taking Flensburg, Daedric is the one who is going to be tasked with dealing with that, claiming Flensburg, and then over towards Wordbad, where he can build the great city back up there. Bernhof von Carstein again marches seemingly aimlessly across the center part of the Empire. Ralph Koch is able to meet him and
Faith
is sent to
shields
deal with
us.
that before pushing into Sylvania. Ralph's army is not at full strength heading into this battle. He gives some of his more wounded men a bit of a reprieve, allowing them to sit in the forests and wait. If they are needed, they can come out, but otherwise they can sit this one out. The rest of Ralph's army is set up on a nearby hill where they wait for the zombie hordes to approach them. They know that with their crossbows and handgunners, the vampire lord will come to him and he can have the better position.
Heads down, men! They're casting spells!
The great flyers of the enemy are able to circumvent the line of the Empire to go right after the exposed crossbows. Ralph Koch is able to respond along with his captain and drive the vampire lord away, or kill him entirely. And at that exact moment, the rest of the undead flyers appear. The Empire goes ahead and engage them in the air, where they remain vulnerable to the missile fire. Realizing this, the flyers do land and try to do what they can against the poor crossbows who can't seem to catch prey.
Weapons at the ready! Take the ground!
Hammer of the Empire!
For Heldenhammer! Whoa! Crossbows ready, General! At speed! Standing by! Take the ground! Loaded, sir! Take the... Enemy wizard spotted! Behold! Slay them! Keep your heads down, men! They're casting
The Empire is victorious as the magic of the vampires does crumble. With another vampiric army defeated, the path into Sylvania, or what remains of it rather, is clear. Soon the vampiric threat will be completely dealt with, and yet the problems are never ending for the Empire, as the lands of Kislev have been ravaged and new demonic hordes threaten to stream into the Empire from the north.